Eternal God, I pray that you bless us in this meeting today and keep us, Lord. Make your face shine on us and be gracious to us. I pray that we feel your presence today because you are with us wherever we go. I pray that today we focus upon you and your plans for us as a body of believers. That our actions today be valuable to our aim, which is to build up and support one another and the people of this community and the world. Amen.
Thank you. Calvin, would you like to do the pledge?
If you join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty.
Right. Welcome to Dublin AM Rotary's first March meeting of 2023. So this morning, I think we've got several announcements. So amazingly enough, the polar bear golf outing is now in the books. Best polar bear golf outing ever in terms of golfers, fundraising, etc. So I think we do owe Gene and his team a round of applause. Especially the team. We had a lot of folks helping to make it happen. It definitely takes a village. So now that we can put that aside, what's our next fundraiser? The Pro-Am. Yes, so John Susie, you want to give us an update?
Well, the committee has started to meet. Volunteers are welcome. We will be, sending out some communications. We're starting to meet on Mondays at 4 o'clock via Zoom or some kind of Teams technology. So it's May 31st, another save the date reminder. That's Pro-Am Day. We're going to be following the format that we started with in 2019 and we continued last year. Okay.
Oh yeah, this is where the Zoom folks will hear you.
I'm sorry. So May 31st, it's a 8 to 5 event. We will need volunteers, to help with various things such as registration, which is key when the people all show up. And we will need some drivers to help shuttle folks from the parking lot where they'll be parking. But most of all, we want your participation. All members will be have 2 tickets and they can do with them what they want. It's a great fellowship opportunity. Bring friends, bring spouses, bring anybody that wants to participate. But it's a great day, food and drink included. Get to see some celebrities on the golf course if you want. But we've had some great success with this, and Dave Lundergan and I are co-chairing again with Gene and Peter as our mentors, guiding us along from the board. But we will be filling in the blanks for everyone as the days and months to come. But pretty soon it'll be May 31st. It seems like it's 3 months away, but as the folks with the polar bear understand, that next thing you know, it's there. So looking forward to your participation and any suggestions for making it better, please step up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. And because he said the date, May 31st, please start adding some things to your calendar. There is a handout at each of the tables with our March events coming up. And what's very important for you to know is that next week, our meeting will start just a little bit later. So the country club will be open at 7:30, so you can come in and have coffee, tea, etc. But our main speaker will start at 9 and she will go for a full hour. So our meeting starts first bell at 8:40. Then we start the meeting at 8:45. We'll do some announcements, etc. And then Betsy will get her program started at 9 o'clock. I have to tell you that she is an amazing speaker. I heard her presentation last week, and she really gives a lot of information about Intel and the starting point of Intel, how that all came to be, but then what it means. And quite frankly, a week ago, I thought, well, that's something going on in Licking County. It may or may not affect us. Oh, please know it will affect us. It will affect all of us, regardless of where you live. So please make a note, see if you can attend that meeting. Also on your calendar, March 11th. Who's got plans? Who's going to be out of the city, out of the state on March 11th? Okay, so Sharon, you get an out. John, you get an out. Everybody else, we have not had a St. Patrick's Day parade for 3 years. It was canceled in 20 because of COVID, canceled again in 21 because of COVID. And I think last year it was, I don't know, winds of 40 miles an hour, right? So the forecast is 70 degrees and sunny. I'm kidding. It may be 35 degrees and snowing, but we do need some parade marshals to come out and help with the parade. So I'd ask you to please look at your calendar, see if you can give us a couple hours and respond to Claudia's email requesting volunteers. And let's see, I do have a few different asks. Actually, the mission trip after March 11th, then we suddenly get close to the mission trip. Sharon, do you want to give us some updates?
So real quick, I want to thank everybody for their generosity.
Sharon, come on back
Gotta
here.
get
That's
back
where
here.
the mic is.
Okay. I want to thank everybody for their generosity. It's been absolutely fabulous. And we're very needy. So this time what I'm asking for is toothbrushes. So if you have any extra toothbrushes, brand new, please. But if you have any toothbrushes to bring in, you can bring them to the next couple of meetings, and that would be fabulous. We'd really appreciate that because we're getting all set and ready to go. The suitcase that was the challenge for today was a suitcase I bought at Goodwill because we're each taking a very large suitcase and filling it with supplies to take and then leave the suitcase there. So I was hoping somebody would break into this combination to see if we could then take that suitcase. But Wolf has now volunteered to give us a suitcase that was donated to him. But again, thank you for your generosity. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Exciting stuff. When you guys leave March 18th? No,
16th and 18th.
16th and 18th. Doing some good stuff. Take lots of pictures because we want to. Yeah, Roberta's going. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Last up, Cindy Groniger has been coordinating our Meals on Wheels efforts, and she needs volunteers for the next 3 Wednesdays. Now, what this means is we just need one individual to step up. It's really a commitment of 11 to 1 o'clock, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You go deliver meals to 7 residents who really do need our assistance. So if you can do that, please email myself or Cindy and let us know, because we would like to get you on the list. And you do have to fill out a special form with Life Care Alliance to do that as well. Okay. Also, I wanted to welcome back on Zoom. Bob Rosenberg took a little bit of a hiatus because we weren't doing Zoom. He came to the Polar Bear Golf outing. He helped tremendously with getting the raffle prizes. And he asked me, are we going to get back to Zoom? Well, we are, but I think today, Zoomers, you have no camera. So technology is always a little bit of a challenge, but we are trying our best to get back to the hybrid meeting so that folks that are traveling can dial into our club as well and stay informed. But welcome back, Bob. We're glad to have you. Let's see. The very last announcement is that the district is having a competition collecting products for women's hygiene products during the month of March. So there's a big old basket out front. Please consider bringing soap, deodorant, razors, shampoo, things of that nature to throw in the basket. If you forget, you can always stop by State Bank. We'll have the basket in the lobby. You can drop stuff in there. Okay. Any other announcements today? No. Okay, well, let's have the Sergeant Arms come on up. Claudia?
Morning, everybody. I know that Susan already talked about the parade and how important and fun it is. But what you didn't know is that you also get to wear this very attractive vest. So who now wants to join me in marshaling the parade? Hands up. Hands up, come. Okay, we got one, we got two. We got, you already did. We need more. I need two more. Two more.
Two more, we need two more.
Okay. All righty. Okay, thank you very much. And keeps you cozy at night too. My husband loves it. So now we've got our parade marshals. So that's a good thing. I'll sign you guys up and you'll all get an email with all the going to the Dominican. Who has not had an opportunity or taken advantage of an opportunity to volunteer yet this calendar year? Come on, four-way test. I know that is not true. I know that is not true. What?
I said, does greater count?
Yeah, okay, reader counts. Yeah, no. Okay, we need more volunteers and we need people actively engaged. And I know it's hard because after COVID, everybody was like, I can't, I won't, I can't, I'm afraid. But we really need that. So because the city counts on us to do a lot of things. And it's a lot of fun to be together. I really don't have a big find today. What I'd like you to do is dig deep in your heart. And if you think that you've given 100%, then don't give anything. And if you don't think you gave 100%, give $1.
All right, that works. I like that.
We have a visitor today. Garrett Dunham is here. Garrett, you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Garrett. I live like right over there, and my kids go to daycare right there, which makes this super convenient. I'm a guest of Andy Keeler's, and great to see you all.
Okay, today the small pot is $15. 15 smackers. Whoop! That and a sexy vest, and you are front and down.
Right.
Pull that and read that off of me.
And the winner is 7579. 7579. Oh, we have a winner.
Whoa, Todd, I told you.
Okay, meanwhile, this small time, it donated to our mission, trip for whoever's got something, so. Because you won the big pot last week.
Yeah, it was less than this week. All right, 166.
All right,
So it's a fresh deck,
digging deep here.
Whoops.
Oh, well,
other than the one she threw out.
wait a minute. 7596. 7596. How do you get?
Thank you. Have a lovely day.
Didn't win?
No, no.
All right.
And then, yeah, and then.
Very great. All right, thank you, Claudia. And Claudia is doing double duty because she is going to introduce our speakers this morning. Claudia?
Thank you. So in doing a lot of things with the city, I've had the opportunity to meet some really interesting people. And one of them is Matt. Matt Ehrman is our Director of Parks and Rec, and we collaborated on the Peace Pole project, which was amazing. And his team was super, super helpful. Matt served the city of Dublin since 2004 as our Director of Parks and Rec. And prior to his career in Ohio, Matt has served in various positions with the Northern Virginia Regional Park Authority between 1981 and 2003. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Forestry and Wildlife and served on the Ohio Parks and Recreation Association Board of Directors between 2010 and 2015. He now sits on the association's foundation board to help raise funds to support the profession. I believe everybody in this room has enjoyed our parks in Dublin. And I know I do every single day. So with that, welcome. Matt Ehrman.
Thank you, Claudia, and thank you all for letting me be here, and thank you for all you all do for the community as well. I want to stand up here today to do one of my favorite things, and that's talk about your Parks and Recreation system. We are all proud of it. There is a lot about it that people know and a lot about it that people don't know. And what I want to do today is spend a little bit of time talking about some of the things that are coming in the future, which those things you probably don't know yet. Before I get into that, though, I have to do this. It's my obligation to tell you and remind you to attend the State of the Community event on March 9th. It's held at the Exchange down at Bridge Park. So please, if you have time to be there, we'd love to have you. So a little bit about our Parks and Recreation system. Some of the things you may not know about it is a nationally accredited agency with the National Recreation and Parks Association. They have a commission for Parks and Recreation Agency accreditation. What that does is it assures us that we are abiding by the best practices in the industry from a national standard standpoint. We've been accredited since 2010. We intend to keep that accreditation and keep moving forward to strive to be above and beyond what those expectations are. And a lot of that is attributed not just to what I do for a living, it's the entire community's involvement, it's past councils, it's some of the leadership in the city, it's stakeholders, it's volunteers, it's partners, and certainly our incredible Parks and Recreation staff who make it all happen. So there's a lot of work behind that accreditation. We take it seriously and we're very proud of it. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is we are currently embarking on our Parks and Recreation Master Plan update. The last plan we had was in 2010. So a lot has happened since 2010. We've had a lot of changeover in the community. We've had council turnovers. We've had a lot of new parks come online. And we had this thing called the pandemic in 2020, which shifted us entirely into our thinking, into technology, the opportunities that we have going forward. And we learned a lot from that pandemic. One of the most important things I think came out of that pandemic was that it gave us as a Parks and Recreation passion, it gave everybody the understanding of where that passion comes from, because everybody used our parks in a way that they've never used them before. So we intend to continue to provide those types of services and keep leading in that direction to get people involved. One of the things that you're going to definitely hear at the State of the Community is our strategic framework. Our strategic framework is basically to be the most sustainable, connected, and resilient global city of choice. You can see the three buckets at the bottom. Those three buckets are strategies that we intend to employ through achieving that global city of choice. Every single strategic action plan in our Parks and Recreation Master Plan coming forward will fit into one of these buckets. And it'll be identified as it does throughout the plan. So a little bit about the plan. We hired a consultant firm, Pros Consulting. They're out of Indianapolis. They are one of the most nationally and world-renowned Parks and Recreation master planners. And although they're from Indianapolis, they actually do a lot of work from right here in Central Ohio. They're very familiar with the area. They're very familiar with our contiguous municipalities around us. So it really gave us an opportunity to see from their perspective of where we fit in the grand scheme of things. So we have started this project back in March of last year, and we have made it a long way to get to where we are today. The first phase was basically the launch of that phase, identifying what our objectives were, how we were going to go about it, and developing a steering committee, and so forth. The second phase is probably the most important phase. A lot of data collection, a lot of data analysis, and a lot of public input. We received a tremendous amount of input. They were very impressed with that and gave us a lot of good positive feedback on it, which makes this plan a better plan because it does involve the community to see it forward. So where we are today is not where it is on this map. This is an old presentation. We've actually already presented this plan, at least some of the key focus areas, which I'll go over with you today, to our city council. And it will then go back to city council with some refinement and some more specifics before we finalize the plans. We are getting close. As you can see by this chart, this is our checkoff list of each of the primary components within the plan. You can see that we have completed the majority of it. We still have some in progress work, and that is basically taking what we know and what we have and refining it. And then the finalizing of the plan, we're hoping that'll be accomplished here in the next month or so. So to create the plan, there was a lot of technical analysis that was achieved. The consultants went out and visited all 20 of our community parks. Everybody knows we have 64 parks in total. We classify them differently. We have community parks and neighborhood parks. Our community parks are those that are designed to meet the needs of the entire community. They're programmed, they have restrooms, or they have parking lots, those kinds of things. Where our neighborhood parks serve the local neighborhoods within certain subdivisions, as most of you all understand that. So they went out and visited all 20 parks, and they gave us a thorough examination of each one of those to make sure that we understand what our needs were in those parks. So they identified a bunch of the strengths that they noticed, some of the challenges going forward, and the opportunities that are before us to improve on those parks. If there's one thing that I've heard from our city council and from me, is that I want to make sure that we are maintaining our current parks, our existing parks, to the point where they are at the highest standards, so that we don't lose sight of what has brought us to this point today and only focusing on the shiny penny. So this whole assessment was done in that vein. Another analysis, yes, sir.
It's some of those parks by the elementary schools and middle schools and schools, so they under your umbrella as well?
Yes, yes. There are partnerships with the schools as far as that property use. And there are imaginary property lines. Sometimes we can't find them. We don't know where they are, but we do work well with the schools to make sure that they're maintained accordingly. So one of the other analyses that we've conducted is a walk shed analysis. What you see on the map here is in green. Those are all of our parks. To the northern section of the city, that is Muirfield. That's considered private area, so it's not considered in part of this analysis. But what you see on this map is quite impressive. The dark blue area is a 5-minute walk shed to each of those parks. The light blue area is a 10-minute walk to each of those parks. And the reason for this analysis is to make sure that we are in making sure that things are available for everybody in the community. There's no gaps in our coverage, and everybody has equal access to those parks. And we've done a lot of analysis on income, age groups, culture, all kinds of different demographic data, and compared it to these walk sheds to make sure that our parks were equally distributed across the community and providing the types of amenities that each of those areas need. We also conducted a level of service analysis, and that basically takes, our park acreage, the amenities we have, putting them out in statistical data form and putting them onto a chart. I'm not expecting you to read this by any means. But what you see on this chart is a list of all of those things that we recorded as our level of service. You'll see the light shaded gray area. That is the national standard. And then in the end is analysis of where we fit into the national standard. And I will tell you, it's impressive to the point where our consultants, they've done over 300 or 400 of these types of plans. And I quote, Dublin has probably the best parks and recreation system in the country. That's a powerful statement. So what we did, we didn't want to just look at ourselves from a national standard. We went out and benchmarked ourselves against some of the best parks and recreation agencies in the country, including Westerville, which is a local agency, obviously, you know. But each one of these cities have achieved the National Gold Medal Award from NRPA, which is a very prestigious award. It requires a lot of data collection such as these. So one of my objectives and goals is next year to go out and seek that gold medal, because I think that we are above and beyond most of all of these other benchmark cities. And so what you can see here is, you know, our population per square mile. That just basically gives us the density. We want a low density. That is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. So we are actually at near the top of that list if you take it from that perspective. Park acreage, you can see there the national standard for park acreage is almost 13 acres per 1,000 residents. We have almost 2.5 times that. So we have 30 acres per 1,000 residents. When you look at our trail miles, the upper quartile for the national standard is 29 total miles, and we have 140 miles. So you can see that, you know, where we benchmark up against some of these best cities in the country tells a big story that I think really gives us something to be proud of. Another part of the analysis was our program assessments from our recreation services team. Taking a look at our core program areas, the adaptive, adult and senior, aquatics, fitness, preschool, teen, theater, and youth. Each one of these program areas was assessed. We got a really good rating from our consultants, and everything is well constructed and well distributed. So we do have some work to do. We always do. We want to be more innovative. We want to try to make sure that we're hitting on some of the needs that were identified in some of the surveys that we've done. So some of the funding strategies that we currently are using today are somewhat limited, but we do utilize these and activate these to the point where it does fund our system fairly well. But one of the things that we're going to need to shift to is consider exploring new types of funding strategies. These types of funding strategies are not currently being employed to achieve dedicated funds to do the things that we need to do for the community going forward. Certainly our grant application, we actually have applied for 2 grants and were awarded 2 grants in the last couple of years to the tune of about $850,000. We need to explore a little bit more of that. The state funding is there, other grant funding is there. We just need to go after it. So getting into the public engagement, as I mentioned, we have received a lot of participation from the community. We're very proud of that. From the project website to public meetings to our surveys and interviews with stakeholders. One of the very interesting things that we did was conducted 2 different types of surveys. Did anybody get a letter in the mail for a statistically valid survey? You did? They were distributed based on the demographics of our community. Not everybody got that mailed survey, but everybody was welcome to take the online survey, which was the exact same survey. It was just done in a different manner. So we can gauge based on our demographics, how closely aligned were they with our statistically valid survey. And then our online survey gave us a 3rd dimensional approach to see what the needs of the community are. From the statistically valid survey, you can see on the red dots on this map that this is where we received the surveys from throughout the community. It's very well distributed, which is a good mark to have. And what it told us was, taking into what the needs of the community are, we used what was called a priority investment rating. And that's taking the importance of each place on each facility, or the household on each facility, and then how many of those facilities are unmet needs in those same households. And on this graph, you can see that aquatics facilities is the very leading amenity. There's a reason for that. And then you can see down here at soccer fields, it's down in the low priority. Okay, when it says low priority and high priority, there are stories behind every single line on here. The aquatics, for instance, it serves every age group in the community. Aquatics does. And it serves 5 different types of aquatic uses. You've got therapeutic, you've got exercise, you have leisure, you have instructional, and you have competition. So when you have all of those types of uses, plus the entire age of the demographic age of the community, it's going to be high on the list. Soccer, for instance, are only answered by those who have kids playing soccer. It's a much smaller crosstab, if you will, through the community. So what we do is we do some crosstab analysis for age groups, households, and so forth to understand what each of these lines mean. It doesn't mean that number one thing is aquatics. It might be, but we have to make sure that we understand why. And then our recreation programs gave us some results there as well. So when we're talking about doing types of facilities, we have to understand what types of programming needs to come with it. So this list gives us that insight moving forward. So some of the preliminary recommendations. As a city of, achieving the global city of choice, we wanted to make sure the master plan aligned with that same statement. And we wanted to make sure that this plan was directly related to that. So we developed this vision and mission for the plan going forward to provide every resident in the city of Dublin an exceptional parks and recreation experience to elevate Dublin to a global city of choice. How we're going to do that is 5 key focus areas. The first one with parkland, acquire and develop new parkland and maximize the value of each park currently in the system to reach full recreation value associated with its design. You can see some of the influential pictures, photos that are included on this slide. None of those are cheap, and they are looking to the needs of the community, the identified things that we found in the survey, some of the expectations that we've heard from city council and the stakeholders. It's, you know, artificial turf fields to provide the services for our athletic programs, adventure types of facilities that give the other idea is taking our 140 miles of trails and creating cultural trails within it. It tell a story as you're walking or biking along. I think that is a really good idea for giving basically some understanding of what that trail system really is about. Some of our recreation facilities that we've noted is to continue to be the leader in indoor and outdoor community-based facilities for people of all ages and interests. One of those is making sure that we're investing in our recreation center. Recreation center is built in 1996, as many of you all know. It is dated. We need to upgrade it. We've actually started the design of that, and we anticipate some of those designs taking place hopefully later this year. But we need to make sure that we get some of that information in front of City Council and to you, the public, to make sure that we're doing the right thing to serve. Certainly aquatics facilities, as you noticed on that survey, thinking of new aquatics facility space, and performing arts centers, for instance, as an example of something that we can incorporate into the city to provide not just performing arts, but multiple types of uses in one facility. These are not done deal things. These are ideas. These are conceptual types of things that we really want to think about going forward. Each one of these things is very expensive. We need to really start thinking about how we might be able to do these things. So from program services, we learned about the types of programming people wanted, from, you know, some of the adventure types of things to adult sports and adult activities, pickleball, cultural festivals, enrichment types of programs. And is everybody here aware of esports? Esports is a very, very high trending, we'll call it recreational activities. I can question it both ways, but it's basically gaming. It is a social network of people that use video games and actually compete amongst each other. It is a professional sport now. Each of our high schools has a team. It is something that teens are really engaged in, and my traditional ways of outdoor recreation is has always been my passion, but I've always said that technology is one of those things that our Parks and Recreation will always compete against. So we need to stop competing because we will lose. We need to start working with so that we can make sure that we engage with what we can with the technology. And then certainly our Parks and Recreation operations, this goes back to making sure that we are maintaining and keeping our parks to the highest standards possible by every method possible, making sure that we don't lose sight of that in the light of the new shiny pennies that we want to accomplish. Financing has to be another key focus area. Expand the funding options available to the Parks and Recreation Department. Fund the community's desire for a world-class Parks and Recreation system that meets and exceeds the community's vision for Dublin. That's going to require a lot of new thinking, different types of joint partnerships and sponsorships and all kinds of things in order for us to be able to make these things happen. So with that, I will pause and open it up for conversation, questions you may have. Yeah, John.
First of all, I want to say that we don't turn on the top park system by accident. We're very lucky to have you and Susan. I'm very thankful for your leadership. Back on that priority chart, the one where you said aquatics is the top and soccer is the bottom, I couldn't see, I don't know, what were the top 5 or 6? And my question is, where does passive, just green space?
Well, it's interesting. We have, aquatics number 1, botanical gardens is number 2, for instance. Whether it's botanical, Japanese, whatever type of garden, but that is number 2. And that has a lot to do with, you'll see that in more affluent types of communities that want more of a passive type of experience. It certainly speaks to our demographic, but you'll see that around the country. So I'm told.
I mean, I think the baseball field, the soccer, it's all very important, but just the green space, I think is important to our, long-term to our quality.
Yeah. Everybody that's ever seen our soccer fields has seen them decline over the years. That has to do with heavy rains that we're seeing now. They're getting beaten up. I don't see a huge increase in the number of kids playing soccer, but the level of play has increased. The competitive nature of soccer. Southfield, Burlington Park, and so forth. So we know that we're at capacity and we know we need to increase that. So we're going to take a really hard look at that, which is why that was on one of those slides. In Dublin, not so much. In corporate Dublin, not so much, but there's always land opportunities outside of Dublin to annex in. And that's certainly something that we're going to be considering is new land acquisition. You had a question back there?
I know Leather Lips has been a concert venue for the last, who knows how many years, and it seems to be declining in the number of shows. Also, Bridge Park has like a cross section of streets where they have bands. But is there any thought to developing a more permanent concert venue, indoor or outdoor?
I would say that is something that is going to be considered for sure. We do have the challenges there at Scioto Park for the Sunday at Scioto, from traffic to shade to you name it. So we're working with the Dublin Arts Council to figure out what we might want to do to shift that a little bit to a better location or improve that site to be able to accommodate, but certainly on the radar.
Next question about your budget. What is your budget to maintain and do all this work?
All of this work here
Well,
that we're talking about, we don't have a budget.
On an annual basis.
From a capital standpoint, we average about $3 million a year. From an operations standpoint, it's about 19 million. And a little over $1 million is allocated each year for renovation.
I look at the bike path system here, it's phenomenal. And I'm wondering how we go about communicating with our neighboring communities to have a vision to connect our bike paths so that that's a way of access to it without transportation.
Yeah, and you know, I know the city does a lot of that planning, a lot of it's through Morpsey. To make sure that we do have that connectivity. We do have council representatives that are representing, you know, those newly forming areas and so forth. And those topics do come up for sure.
The Riverside Crossing Farm, are there any plans to more actively use that, providing to festivals and on right now? It seems like it's not being used as full.
Yes. We are taking a new policy for events and park use to our city council on the 13th, as a matter of fact. And we're asking for it to be referred to committee for discussion for the purpose of regulating and activating Riverside Crossing Park as a whole. It's a very challenging park to hold festivals and or types of events because we don't want to impede traffic. We don't want exclusive use of areas that don't allow other people to use the areas that are there. We need to understand all of that. We need to make sure that we're setting the parameters that do activate that area because city council is expecting several events down there every year. We just need to make sure that we're wrapping our arms around it and getting ahead of it before we start.
There was a bridge across the river.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Mhm.
This is a really simple question, but is there any opportunity to keep the
It's not impossible. But those restrooms are not heated
Yeah, that's what I figured it was, but
and it's something that's doable. We just need to set our priorities of where we invest our money and you are important, Claudia, I promise.
fine.
I'll put it on my list. How's that?
Part of the city parks or township?
It is part of the city parks. I don't remember in what year, but it was transferred from Washington Township to the city for $1. And so now we operate it.
So who do I send a request to because the flag needs to be replaced?
Are you familiar with our Go Dublin app on the phone?
Yes.
If you, okay. And it will be, tell me how long it takes to get it fixed. We have a dedicated crew to that Go Dublin app. Is everybody familiar with that? Okay.
Todd, last question.
So when the downtown city of Columbus is really growing and booming, they had to come up with some areas for the residents to take their pets to do their business because of that. And so I've had a lot of people, not only you've got Bridge Park and owners with their pets, I see them walking out in weeds, and we don't want our kids on the soccer field because that's where they take their dogs to run. We like to think everybody gets up after their dog, but reality that doesn't happen. So as we're growing like that, is there any designated space? Because there are people that are scared of dogs too. For those people can go and not jeopardize the sports or other people have a feel where they can let the dog play in the world.
Yeah, you know, dog parks in particular are a very difficult thing to plan. Everybody wants one, they just don't want one in their backyard. And so we're always looking at ways to better serve in that capacity, but to have a dedicated area.
The one thing Hilliard's, everybody knows kind of where they go is kind of dog park friendly that these residents from Dublin might go for going.
There's very little shade, that kind of thing. So if you're familiar with Glacier Ridge Dog Park, where they use the woods as an alternative area during the wetter months and for shade. We also have that same environment down at Dari that we might be able to explore. So taking some of the invasive species out of that area and expanding the dog park into the wood lot there is something we're looking at.
You know, I think even spots, you know, over at Bridgeport, they were out for the only places they could go were construction lots, they had developed that. Acres on it, wasn't an area to walk down.
Well, we are working with Crawford Horing to make sure that, they're keeping that on their radar, our planning departments as well. Yeah, it's an issue.
That's a good issue to have, right?
It's an issue. There are no good issues.
Okay, gosh, great questions, very inquisitive crowd, things I wouldn't have thought of, but Matt, you did a fabulous job, and once again, thank you for your leadership. Next week, as we said, we're gonna start the meeting a little bit later. Betsy Liska Goldstein will be presenting on the impact of Intel, and her program starts at 9 and it's a full hour. And what else? Gonna end this with a quote. Today's quote. This is an easy one from Benjamin Franklin. I think it always is worthwhile to remember that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Benjamin Franklin. With that, have a great weekend and we'll see you next week.